Welcome to Monarchist Minute. I'm your host, William Stout, joined today by Watercube and Vice Chancellor Clements Magnolia. And we have a lot to talk about after being away due to the holiday, because while we were away for the holiday, things actually happened. Nothing
History.
happened. People in
Nothing
shambles.
ever happens. Bros are in shambles right now.
History is no longer officially over. Thank you, Francis Fukuyama. He gave us the clear head to continue history.
Glory. Although I did see someone post that history is finally ended in Syria because Assad's crashing down. I don't think so. Because
This is just the beginning.
Well, no, I think they're talking about liberalism being brought to Syria. Because, the end of the, history by Fukuyama is all about, liberalism won. Nothing ever
liberalism being
happens.
brought to Syria. Have they seen who the people in the Free Syrian Army are? I think I said it best on our official Twitter account. The problem with Assad being overthrown isn't that Assad gets overthrown, it's that there's no clear path or future.
Yeah, who takes over next?
Okay,
yeah.
but think about what might happen. The beauty that will occur if they come to some democratic agreement and we'll have Al-Qaeda debating a member of the PKK. Come on.
Honestly, what I think is going to happen is Syria is going to collapse into a warlord state, and the PKK.
I don't know about that, honestly. The way I see it, I think what's probably going to happen is that I think the Assad remnants might try to create an Alawite state on the coastline. The Kurds are obviously going to declare independence.
No, Kurds are not going to declare independence. They work too much to the Syrian alliance. They've been working with the rebels for a while now, and the rebels are right now helping them kind of fight off the remnants of Assad groups, and also the Turks right now.
I'm guessing they're just going to be like autonomy then, most likely.
Declare independence. The only thing that'll happen is Turkey will steamroll them.
Yeah, no, they know that they need to work with the rest of Syria to remain alive. The Alawite state thing is a bit iffy. It might end up the Alawites actually giving over Assad just to try to save their own necks, but also because
didn't he already flee to Russia though?
I don't. Do we know where he went?
I thought I saw. I thought I read yesterday that he fled with his family to Russia.
No, I know his family was sent out, but he remained in Aleppo for a bit, I think, or Damascus. And he then moved out, but we don't know where he moved to. But we know his family's in Russia.
Now, this is going to be really interesting, especially for Israel, because now Iran isn't going to have a land path to supply Hezbollah and Hamas.
Yeah, but now we'll see Sunni extremists returning to the area, kind of taking up their spot.
Yeah.
And they're going to try to probably help out at least Hamas. They are sympathetic to Hamas, probably not so much Hezbollah.
Well, yeah, because Hezbollah is Sunni.
Well, it's not
No, Shia. Sorry.
It's more just the proxy conflict. They know they're Iranian backed. Hamas, they will at least work with because they view Israel as a greater evil, and also what's going on in Palestine. It's a united front. They have the communists, the jihadis, and everyone just working together on the same team.
The Arabs hate the Persians, the Turks hate the Kurds, and everybody hates the Jews.
Well, it's
it's like the Balkans. Just everyone hates each other, but they hate the Turks more.
And for good. Never mind, I'm not gonna make that comment.
No, I know it is for good reason. You won't say it, but I will.
Well, to be fair, the Balkaners actually do have good reason, given centuries of slavery, but that's besides.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I don't like Turks.
The Turks kind of do that around that region as well. I know the Turks did a weird genocide during the Young Turks period in the late Ottoman Empire.
You're going to have to narrow it down. They did a ton of different.
They did a few. There was a Greek one and a Syrian one. The Armenian one is the most talked about. There also was, I think, the Yazidis as well.
Yeah, they did a couple of genocides. And,
they did 5 all in the same of 6 years.
Yep. And then is it safe to call the Young Turks proto-fascists? They're at least palingenic ultra-nationalists.
I would say so.
I had a Turk's also a fascist, but he's a liberal fascist. I don't really
know. I don't know if we could call him proto-fascist. Just how much do they believe it should be within the state and not just the culture or the culture.
I think they were like heading that state route because they were trying to like model like Prussianism, basically. Like
okay, then yeah, I mean, I guess we could say it's proto-fascist because it didn't reach the point of the state yet.
Yeah, no, it wasn't intellectually developed yet. Like we didn't have Giovanni Gentili.
Yeah.
We?
We? Who is we? There's no we here.
We are French
They didn't
now.
have Giovanni Gentili. I like Giovanni Gentili personally, but that's because like I like when people mess with Hegel and they're not just like relying on dialect.
I want to actually read his work just so I can understand if like Mussolini and Hitler absolutely bastardized his work.
Well, no, okay, Hitler had nothing with Giovanni Gentili, and like literally, he wrote like the sad thing after Mussolini took power. It's like, okay, it's an issue of the party. We have this mass movement, and we will never be able to control it. So like, he just kind of gave up on controlling it. And he's like, yeah, the philosophy is lost in the populism.
Because I know like the original premise behind fascism was supposed to like resurrect the Roman Republican ethos.
Well, it was more about reaching the ideal state, which they just tended to idealize the Roman Republic in a similar vein. So it's like, it's better to describe it as like reaching for just an idealized form of something, like in that level of desire, like rationalized. Because like Giovanni Gentili was like a synthesis of Kant and Hegel, which is like an interesting approach. I haven't read enough of his works to give a full thing. I know, though, with at least how he remodeled the education system, which is the same education system still used in modern Italy. Like, it was about just trying to make everyone philosopher kings, essentially. Where you want like a philosophically agitated populace. Because as much as like Italian fascism was fascistic, it was also very much focused on the arts.
Interesting.
It's why it also has like origins in futurism and stuff like that. Meanwhile, Nazism mostly goes back to Romanticism and Volkish mysticism as its like weird ideological roots.
And I got into a conversation with a Canadian friend of mine. We were discussing on whether or not we would say that National Socialism would be under the same umbrella as fascism or not.
Like, I tend to define it as its own thing, and the Italian fascism of Germany was purged in the Night of Long Knives.
I know, like, because that was the point I was trying to make with him, because he was saying they were still under the same umbrella, and I'm like, I can see the argument, but I just don't think it is, because I think there's just differences between the two. There's too many great differences, specifically just the racial issue, because fascism itself is not bent on race, though, whereas National Socialism was bent on race.
And also, like, a very weird view of race. Like,
yeah.
One that's really much reliant on a mystic view of, like, civilizations. Like, I think, though, the commonality between them and why we group them together outside of them being allied in World War II is also the fact that there's a psychological fascism that seemed to unite them. Like, it's not a actual ideological fascism, but it's, like, how authoritarianism and populism and like that complete control, a cult state kind of forms.
Now, here's my question. Where does the Japanese Empire during World War II fit into this weird ideological soup that was the Axis?
Well, it was mostly circumstance. They didn't even like it. None of the Axis members didn't really like each other that well, and they never really coordinated too much. The Japanese were there because of circumstance.
But we never really talk about the ideology of Imperial Japan at that point. And
their ideology was mostly just about Japanese. I wouldn't say like I don't mean like complete racial supremacy, but more like Japan is better than you all.
No, there was more to it there because like that was the unifying factor, but like Showa statism was very
I meant like that was like
it's like how we saw what happened in Manchukuo. Like Manchukuo modeled like itself off the Soviet Union while also trying to be very weird. They were just doing whatever they thought would fit with their culture to get it from point A to point B, which was resource autarky. That tended to be it was more practical. The war was more practical for the Japanese than it was for the Nazis, which was completely ideological, or the Italians, which was somewhat ideological, somewhat practical.
Yeah.
Now, I think the Japanese Empire as an ideology can almost be considered neo-shogunism because the military kind of subsided over the emperor in a practical state. I don't know exactly how to describe it.
Like, I'd say that like that doesn't really fit it though, because like they still would move on the emperor's orders. Just that Emperor Hirohito was very passive and being against or for the war. He could have. The only time when the emperor stepped in was when like liberal politicians were being killed to tell them to stop doing assassinations.
And also at the very end, when the council of the Big Six couldn't decide on whether or not to surrender in the war, and the emperor basically literally just said, "The war is not going to our advantage. We should do something about that." Basically saying, "Hey guys, I think it's
They're
over."
literally dropping suns. We need to stop.
And like, I think that kind of came out of like a weird weakness where there was still very much a culture around the emperor. The emperor was still and kind of still is deified. Like not as much like as it used to be, but we kind of
not in the traditional sense nowadays of the word deified.
Well, I'd say not like just legally deified. There's still Shinto shrines that and still like I don't remember. There's some weird linguistic stuff that happened in that treaty, which kind of left it in a gray area if the emperor lost god status.
He's still technically the high priest of Shinto, so he still has a very large spiritual role, but Japan has largely become irreligious.
Well, no, Shintoism is not the same as like Christianity. Like most people still interact with Shintoism the same way, even if they are irreligious. It's something that we've kind of lost touch with like the rise
Shintoism. Yeah, Shintoism is much more of a cultural aspect than it is a religious aspect.
Yeah. Fascinating religion, though.
Yeah.
I think their idea that average people can ascend to godhood for, like, doing certain things or being of certain renown is an interesting concept.
Well, it's like your spirit's imprinted on an area. It's like, they had a cat that was on a train and everyone loved the cat. They turned the cat into a god. Well, like, not a god. Like, there's a weird ranking system to it and a structure to it. Where it's like a local god, a local deity. It's kind of like having a folk saint, if I was trying to find some comparison. Or a local saint.
Well, I know sumo wrestlers are explicitly stated to be able to ascend to godhood. If you're a prominent enough sumo wrestler, you can actually ascend to godhood or something like that.
Yeah, like...
Sorry.
I think part of the issue with Shinto cosmology is that it's so ancient, and of course, when Buddhism was introduced, Buddhism got mixed in, and so the syncretic, what's the word I'm looking for? The syncretic nature of Buddhism and Shintoism mix was never really worked out.
Yeah, well, it's like Buddhism had what like Shinto needed, which is an afterlife, which like.
Well, if I remember correctly, Shintoism does have an afterlife. It's not fun afterlife, but it does in fact have an afterlife.
I think it's like kind of left. It's kind of like going to Sheol.
Magical
I think
lost to the world. Yeah, pretty much.
Like I have not familiarized myself with like my weeb stage was learning way too much about Shintoism, and I'm failing to recall any of it back.
Shame.
Why are we talking about Shintoism? The United Healthcare like CEO got popped a couple days ago.
Yeah,
we got a little sidetracked there.
How did we freaking Wikipedia article moment?
We wasn't even a Wikipedia article. I was just trying to call it from memory.
No. Next thing you know, on the completely different topic within the span of 10 minutes. You always.
Oh yeah. No, okay, I get that.
Yeah, no, because we were talking about fascism, and then we went to Japan's role between the Axis, and then we got to Shintoism somehow. Because we went from the emperor to Shintoism, literally the Wikipedia train.
We keep clicking the hyperlinks, and we keep getting deeper and deeper.
This is why Zoomers will never amount to anything. We are ADHD.
On the contrary, this is why we will amount to everything.
Thank you, Marinetti.
But the only things I gotta say to start this conversation on the United Healthcare shooter is while murder is wrong, I can't help but absolutely admire how clean that hit was. Like, I'm sorry, but the kind of guy that likes crime shows and stuff, and when I say crime shows, I don't mean that real crime slop. I mean things like Criminal Minds and such.
The early 2000s slop.
Yeah.
No, not the modern slop. The bad slop. My old and nostalgic slop. Good slop. Sorry, I had to miss you there.
I just can't help but look at this crime and think it was beautiful or like perfectly handled.
And also, like, the manifesto on the bullet casings with the, like, title of that, like, the title of the book that goes into the tactics of how insurance companies deny claims. No, like, weird manifesto that's filled with memes or whatever the, like, hell, like, how most far-right killers tend to do it, you know?
Or no complicated theory, like maybe a leftcom terrorist.
There is no leftcom terrorists. There are no leftcom terrorists.
We watched the meme video earlier. We all saw it. There are no leftcom terrorists.
Those aren't the leftcoms either. Though that meme was made by a leftcom.
Oh.
Yeah, no. You see, like, the leftcoms are like the Roman Catholic Church of the communist world. They have an institution, and they're loyal to that institution. They follow the party line. And that party line says, distribute newspapers, don't do anything. The proletarian revolution happens when it happens. And that's why they're honorable about it. They follow their ideology, like, they have follow-through. That's why all the rest of the communist groups call them armchairs and stuff. Because they don't do anything, but that's kind of the most rational thing to do from their ideological perspective.
Are there members of the leftcom that are basically the nothing ever happens people?
Well, no. It's like something will happen. The conditions will make them, like, make it happen.
Lord have mercy. But yeah, this was so clean.
It felt like The Irishman. Like, have you seen that movie?
I don't know if I have.
Mafia Hitman. That's all you need to know.
I haven't seen the movie, but I saw the kill count on it, so yeah.
I've seen In Bruges. Is that similar?
All you need to know is just clean mob pit.
Yeah, like I said, it was so clean. Now, here's my question. Given how clean it was, is there a chance that the killer just managed to make it look like a disgruntled person in order to cover their tracks, and they're actually working for someone a little more?
If that's the case, then that's kind of whatever. But, like, either or situation, it's kind of expected with our modern conditions. Like, people are just unhappy, and also after the, like, killing of Shinzo Abe and his assassination, it became very clear that these people are easy to target and get to if you have that much of a scruple with them.
I remember the Shinzo Abe assassination caused a big uproar in the gun community because it was basically a giant, massive example for them to hold up a see, everyone, we weren't lying. Gun control doesn't stop gun violence. Would you look at that? Dude literally 3D printed a 6-barreled shotgun.
Like, I hope the guy actually had a genuine problem with the healthcare industry compared to just being a hit that's covered that well. Because if they're covering hits that well, actually, no, it's not that hard to, like, just find the name of a book that talks about how insurance is bad. It's America. There's bound to be a bunch of those, and one of them was bound to get popular. Never mind.
Yeah.
But the reaction has been just insane to witness. Like, I remember have you guys seen the comments on the Ben Shapiro video where he tried to say, like, celebrating this death is a bad thing?
For the record, celebrating this death is a bad thing.
Yeah, but, like, the video, all the comments are like, why are you trying to make this a leftist thing? This is an everyone thing, which is, like, kind of insane to see.
Yeah.
I don't really know, like, when was the last time America was this unified over someone dying?
I guess the
Osama bin Laden, maybe.
death
As
of bin.
sad as that sounds.
Like terrorists who organized an attack on the Heartland on a symbol that's already on top of a symbolic city. Healthcare CEO dying. Equal in response and unifying the American people. That's not a good sign for like the American state or the American people.
Yeah.
Like this is a canary in the coal mine. Like, well, there's already a bunch of dead canaries. We just kind of ignored them.
Yeah.
Well, now this is the canary that isn't going to be ignored because now somebody that's actually on top of the pyramid got hurt.
Yeah. Well, like in the two responses we'll see from that is either like they actually change stuff, which means that they'll tell people assassination works, or they'll try to double down and just make themselves a lot more protected. Like, which will just worsen the problem and probably cause more people to attempt to assassinate CEOs, essentially.
I don't know. All I know is I don't have any hard feelings about it. Like, I'm not a sympathizer with the man at all. Clearly, this dude wasn't a good person in life, and we should pray for the repose of his soul, as any good Christian should. But if I gotta be frank, I don't know what he's waiting for come Judgment Day. No comment, or
No, you're just right when you're right.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say on this topic, to be honest.
And then there's also the coup in South Korea.
That thing was a whole thing, honestly. And you could even say I don't think it really was a coup, honestly.
No, it was an attempt at I think it was kind of an attempt.
I don't. I mean, depends on what we want to describe it as, though, because it was absolutely horribly planned. Don't know why the President Yoon decided to do it, because it really didn't make sense. Because it was very obvious he didn't tell anyone about it, and he kind of, my guess is he was hoping that if he did it quick enough, he could get it over with. But that clearly didn't work.
It was a very sloppy auto coup.
Yeah.
I read some things from South Koreans that explain it. Basically, South Korea's duopoly is like America's duopoly on steroids, where basically both parties are corrupt and in cahoots. But there's a delicate balance of power where they're both trying not to screw each other over so they could just screw over the whole country. You know, as one does.
From what I've seen, it was also due to the fact of the opposition, the Democratic Party of South Korea, obviously. They're very corrupt from what I've seen. Not to say that everyone there is corrupt, obviously, but their current leader, I can't remember his full name. I remember his Lee. That's all I remember. But he is on trial for, I think, 15 counts of corruption right now, I believe. Probably not that many, but he's on trial for corruption, lots of corruption accounts that he's very likely going to get sentenced guilty of. And the main issue was that the legislature, which is very much controlled by the opposition, they were trying to impeach all of the president's judicial appointments, because all the judicial appointments were investigating corruption against the Democratic Party.
Right, so basically what happened is, for a moment, the balance of power between two corrupt parties was quickly thrown out. This was basically their version of January 6th. That's what it was.
It's like their Jan 6, but weird.
Yeah.
Because
what I think is hilarious is that they actually voted for the coup to stop. That is just absolutely mind-boggling to me.
Dictators cannot ascend to power without your consent. Just say no. And it worked.
It actually worked. It was so hilarious. So nothing did happen in Korea, but something is definitely happening in Syria.
Well, I mean, they attempted to also impeach the president, but the president's party, People's Power, they were whipping him hard, and the impeachment failed to pass. which is probably a good thing because the fact that the guy who would most likely replace President Yoon is Lee, the guy I said who was on trial for multiple accounts of corruption.
Well, like, if they're both corrupt, doesn't really matter who's in charge. The one that's openly corrupt or one that's trying to be secretly corrupt. It doesn't matter.
And apparently,
they're both bought by some.
I mean, well, there's also the issue that the Democratic Party is pro North Korea in aspects. So
I was getting ready to say that apparently there's rumors that they're sympathetic or have ties to North Korea.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was the rationalization for the martial law declaration. And from what I see is that they're okay with a détente, which is probably best for both, North and South, and also doing peaceful overtures about unification.
Right, because if unification ever happens, probably both the North Korean and South Korean population are going to look at both their societies and be like, ew.
Yeah, they're
but
both
as long
held.
as the other one exists, and you have to choose between a communist hell and a capitalist one, there's always that comparison you could be making, say, it could be worse. Granted, North Korea is significantly worse than the South, but that's besides the point.
Depends on how you view it with quality of life. I think, psychologically, South Korea, you don't have... In North Korea, at least you're going to starve to death. You're going to die of physical causes compared to by, their high suicide rates that exist in South. It depends on how you want to die.
What if I don't want to die?
Then don't move to the Korean Peninsula.
Noted.
Yeah, it's that simple.
It's just don't be born into Korea in either system, because it's not good for you either way.
Also, the fact that their political divide between the sexes in South Korea is getting.
Well, that's not news anywhere in the world, frankly.
No, it's
no,
bad.
No, it's not. It's not like, oh no, they don't like each other. No, it's bad.
They made it a trend for men to go sit in pregnant women's designated sitting areas on trains and take pictures of it as their rebellion against women.
What the hell?
There's a reason why the 4B movement spawned in response to Korean men.
What's the 4? Okay, this is the first time I'm hearing of this. What's the 4B movement?
I don't remember what each 4 of the B's stand for, but it's basically a feminist movement where it's you do not have sex, you do not get married, you do not you don't have any sex with men.
Oh, it was like that when they popped up after Trump got elected, and all the conservatives this is literally what we've been asking you to do for years.
No. Sex with women's allowed and preferred. It's about removing themselves from male-dominated spaces completely because the men have shown themselves to be violent. There's a reason why there's also shutter laws in Korea.
Shutter laws?
Phones, when you take a photo with them, have to make that click noise because there's so many situations where men are trying to take upskirt photos of women, especially when they're in high school and beyond.
Oh dear God.
There's high sexual harassment. There's high it's just not good to be a woman there. So the idea of avoiding male contact becomes just the preferable outcome. The point of it informing politics, and with that divide growing, it's just going to get worse and worse. It's also why their birth rate is so low. Who's going to make a relationship with someone who thinks they're less than them, realistically?
Exactly. Anyways, the Koreas are fucked either way.
Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about sexism, I feel like this is a great time to laugh at the king of the groypers.
Oh yeah, Nick Fuentes
got arrested, thank God.
And to everything was lovely again.
It really depends, though, if it sticks, though. That's my question.
I think it'll stick. I think it'll stick because you can't just pepper spray someone.
Well, that depends on if he's a Fed or not.
If Nick Fuentes was a Fed, he'd be a terrible Fed. Because the thing that happened earlier this week with the whole Destiny video.
Let's not talk about that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, if you're a guy trying to influence the far right on behalf of the Federales, they don't, having read the old COINTEL profiles, it wasn't a big issue then. It's not a big issue now for them to try to like start some stuff. They don't need to put a plant like Nick Fuentes in there. He's stupid on his own, and he's special for that. I feel as if not just Georgia though. I think Israel has a chance. People like Netanyahu does not have the political capital to do what he's done.
I don't think so. I don't think there's gonna be a color revolution in Israel.
No, it'd be like one of those really like stupid ones, like the ones that like just popped up and then immediately died down.
Yeah,
like
but
it's not gonna be.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it'll just be some more protests and like what happened earlier this year, and that's about it.
Israel's got enough external threats and enemies that I don't think they'll have to worry about a color revolution.
No, that's the perfect time for one. Like, it's why, like, oftentimes most of these revolutions, especially in modernity, happen when the army's already at war and people are losing their sons and losing their daughters into something that feels, for the most part, pointless. It's why, like, Lenin basically was able to take advantage of the Tsardom being at war with Germany to, like, actually, no, just to usurp the Republic that already, revolted against the Tsardom. Revolutionaries are opportunists by nature. They have to be.
Right. But, given what's going on in Syria right now, first of all, I just gotta make the comment, I had completely forgotten about the Syrian civil war at this point. What did everyone else think of it?
Well, has officially fled the country.
Wait,
Russia?
Seriously? It's official now.
Yes, he has just fled the country. The rebels have taken the main news broadcasting station in Damascus and have just broadcasted that they've taken over the city and that Assad has fled.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, guess what? Something happened.
Woo! Possible. I don't know what's gonna happen here. I'm worried for them. I am very worried for them. I hope the Turks stop getting involved and just give them some breathing room to figure out their own stuff.
The Turks are definitely not gonna get involved, especially with Erdogan and.
No, like they already are involved. They've been like popping Kurds in like northern Syria for a while now.
I mean, they're not gonna stop getting involved.
Oh, okay.
Like the Neo-Ottoman is not going to stop. That is just not optional for them.
I'm trying to figure out, like, is it because of the ethnicity? Because like Erdogan's base is also like Kurds. So is he just killing them because they're like a PKK attachment like force? Is it because they're communists or is it because they're like, Kurds?
Probably both. Let's be honest.
But again, like Erdogan's base are the Kurds. Like those are the guys who like turn out the most to vote for him.
Which is weird when you think about it.
Not really, because like Kurdistan outside of the Syrian regions is really conservative. They're the ones that Ataturk had to try to gas into submission because they wanted to bring back the caliphate.
Well, I always think it's weird for the Kurds to be supporting the people who generally want to see their culture exterminated, but...
Well, it's because, like, Islam is the unifying factor. It's kind of like when Christianity is a unifying factor over here, like, when it comes down to conservative politics. Because, like, Erdogan, like, wasn't that radical when he started off. He was with the party that was essentially equivalent to, like, kind of like a Republican Christian conservatism, but in a Islamic lens. And, like... he just got more extremist from there. But, like, the Kurds always viewed Islam as a safer thing for the state to hold than it being around Turkish culture and a Turkish nation state. Because if it's about Turkish culture, yeah, they're going to go after the Kurds for cultural reasons. But if it's about, like, Islam, they're safer united under there.
Makes sense.
They also tend to be more conservative. I know just, like, Öcalan and his group that were in Syria are, like, well, that follow his ideas in Syria are way on the left. I don't know if it's right to call them communists, but they're not anarchists either. They're their own thing. They're democratic confederalists, and they're okay. They're chill. I haven't really heard anything bad about them. Like, they just work with everyone, and I hope they stay, like, safe as things get a bit more unsettled.
Yeah.
Well, it will be interesting once the Syrian civil war winds down how this affects Erdogan, given the rising amount of domestic issues that are going on in Turkey. If this happens to damage his legitimacy now that there's not an external crisis or external threat to focus the energy of the Turkish people on.
Yeah. I wonder what Italy's gonna do, because they just normalized the Assad regime, didn't they?
Did
Like,
they?
didn't they try to like kind of rehabilitate Assad and try to normalize relations?
I don't remember honestly. I mean, maybe they did. Is like because they, I mean, it kind of just all of a sudden happened when you.
Yeah, like we kind of like most of the world accepted Assad and like the stagnant state of the Syrian civil war, kind of like the situation in South Sudan, where it's like, oh, these are warlords; they're just gonna duke it out. No matter how much guns or money we pour into either side, it's just a place to, burn our assets essentially to get new stuff.
Now, here's my question, is how will this affect Russia and Iran's influence in the region, given that Assad was a friendly regime to both and an unfriendly regime to the US? This opens more doors for America.
Maybe. Like, again, it depends on, like, who really takes the reins of the government in Syria after the civil war settled. Like, which all the options there aren't really the greatest for the United States. Like, there's, like, the Turkish-backed guys, which might be okay for us. We have literally Al-Qaeda, and among others, like, other Islamic extremists and Salafists, and, other just jihadist groups. Then you have the YPG, which is like been willing to YPJ, and like the other security forces from Rojava, which have been willing to work with the United States, but also ideologically are anti-American.
Yeah.
Are they anti-American because they're communist, or?
Well, it's because like they're tired of American intervention in the region and like how it tends to basically reinforces the worst parts of the region, and they want to be able to nation and culture build, because their whole thing is doing very big localist stuff where like almost every city block is its own autonomous government and it builds upwards. They're almost kind of like a peasant republic.
Interesting.
It's Martian.
Yeah, they are kind of just doing a death martian over there.
And of course, America, we need that sweet oil, and that doesn't really work for us.
Well, that's actually the thing that they worked with America on, was giving them access to the oil rigs.
Really?
And they did that in trade for, like, I think some arms and training. And also, like, it helps that there's, like, American volunteers with Rojava.
I know there's worries about a possibility of ISIS becoming resurgent with Assad going away.
I think most ISIS forces now are in, like, Nigeria.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot in Nigeria. People really don't talk
Why
about.
Nigeria?
Boko Haram worked with. I think Boko Haram swore fealty to ISIS, and they recognized them as the true caliphate, and they got merged in with the ISIS forces, with some Boko Haram loyalists splitting off and like making the new Boko Haram.
I only accept one man as the caliphate, and that is King. I forget his first name. The King of Jordan.
Donald Trump, son of Muhammad. I'm sorry. I saw a chart yesterday that like connected Donald Trump to Muhammad. I'm like, he could be a caliph if he really wanted to be.
Well, like King Hussein. It's Hussein, right? I can't remember.
Yeah, it's King Hussein.
I couldn't remember his first name off the top of my head. I feel like a really bad monarchist for doing it.
Yeah, my dad met him before.
Really? That's cool.
Yeah, I told you, my dad met him. Yeah, when he was because he was serving in the Jordanian army. My dad met him when he was younger in the Marines. And let's also not forget he was also on Star Trek. Yeah.
But yeah, Hussein.
I think only royalty to actually be on Star Trek was the King of Jordan.
But yeah, he's a descendant of Muhammad, blood descendant. He's Sunni Muslim, and he's generally a very moderate and tolerant leader in the Middle East. He would be an ideal candidate that would make everyone happy as a caliph. But oh no, because the British and Americans wanted cheap oil, we snubbed the Dang it, I forget the name.
Dang it, it's Abdallah. It's Abdallah, not Hussein. It's King Abdullah.
Abdullah. Yeah.
Abdallah. Yeah, his son is Hussein. That's why I was getting confused. His son is Crown Prince Hussein, and his father was Hussein.
Right. And remind me, what's the dynasty name?
The Hashemites.
The Hashemites. Yeah, we snubbed the Hashemites for cheap oil. And as much as as a monarchist, that
wasn't really us though, because they got snubbed by the British.
Right.
Yeah, it's always the British fault. Like, America never did anything bad.
Oh, obviously.
We're just cleaning up the British's mess.
Yeah. Also the fact that of the 4 sons that Hussein of the Sharif of Mecca had, only 2 of them have living descendants now. Because the one who was supposed to inherit Hijaz and the king of Iraq, both of their lines are extinct. Because they were both murdered.
Were they murdered by the Baathists or other?
Yeah, it was Saddam.
Oh, it was Saddam specifically.
Yeah,
okay,
they were murdered by Saddam.
It wasn't even the interesting Baathists. It was just the Baathists. Yeah. Okay.
Well, it technically wasn't Saddam, but it was during his coup.
They were interesting. They were.
Well, at least he was part of it, though. Oh, no, never mind. Sorry, yeah, it was just the Baathists.
Okay then. I was like, it took them until Saddam.
It was Abdul Al Karim Qasim. They killed the king, the king's uncle, and the prime minister, and basically everyone.
Yeah,
one power.
Oh,
yeah, because I think what I meant by interesting Baath earlier is that they used to be really connected. It was basically Arab fascism. And I mean that, like, intellectually fascism. Like, the SSNP fulfills the same roles, which is, like, what I'm curious about Syria, what's going to happen with the SSNP, and what's going to happen with the remnant Baath parties, and if the Iraqi-led Baathist faction might make a resurgence in Syria. Because, sorry.
While we're on the topic of Middle Eastern politics and Jordan, did you know that Jordan, there is a family in the Jordanian nobility that is the last remaining Christian Arab dynasty in the world. The Ghassanids. They're still around in Jordan.
Oh, our current heir apparent lives in San Diego.
Really?
Yeah. They're the oldest. I think they're the oldest still surviving direct Arab dynasty. And they're also the only remaining Christian one.
Now,
I know it's funny because I know because I follow the current heir apparent, and he very often tweets about because he's pro Palestine.
Now, is he studying abroad or does he live here?
He lives in San Diego. Yeah.
Oh. Well, I didn't know if it was temporary and he was going to go home at some point, or if he's permanent resident. What is it with royals coming to America?
Because we have a nice standard of living, especially if you are somewhat well off. Like, you can live like a king here. We have people that we pay just to get our food from a restaurant to my door.
Yeah, that is true. And I'll be honest, I'm very picky and choosy about what I get from DoorDash, just for the simple fact that I don't want to feel like some lazy schmuck that's ordering fast food and having someone basically go to a drive-thru for me.
Like, but that's something that there's a whole thing, like, this is going back actually to, like, the brief mentioning of Leftcom. Like, Leftcom Twitter has invented the new word treatler, because there's a whole bunch of, like, petty bourgeois, like, mostly women that were complaining about, like, their DoorDash drivers, like, username not matching up to what they thought they would look like, and threatening to report them to the cops or report them to DoorDash to get their, like, job basically removed.
What
Like,
the heck?
yeah, no, it's like it's just kind of insane that the decadence of our own society. It's decadence that we don't really view as very direct decadence.
It's just weird to think that you would try and get someone fired because their name doesn't match how they look.
And they like oftentimes it's like, oh, if they had like a feminine sounding name and it turns out to be a guy, to report them for quote unquote safety issues because they know where you live. But like also the fucking mailman does.
And mailmen have more of a history of going berserk than anyone.
Like the Amazon package delivery. Amazon's also very decadent for what it is. Like we live in an era of consumption and people do not recognize that and they get so used to that comfort that we don't recognize how comfortable we have it. We live like kings compared to our ancestors. And I think we need to be mindful of that a bit more.
I try to be mindful of that because I do come from a poor background and I don't ever want to be like this rich, snobby dude. Like, in my church youth group, a lot of people talk about how they're going to send their kids to private school so they don't have to deal with public school. And I thought, say, no, I'm intentionally sending my kids to public school because they will have to suffer the public school system as I did.
Yeah, I went to public school.
I don't.
My dad's like, it's fine, just keep him in the public school. It's cheaper.
I went to private school, but like I went to the cheap private school, aka Catholic private school.
There you go.
It's like there's rungs. Like you have like all the prot schools, and then you like above that there's like preparatory schools. But like I don't know if those are even real.
You know, I have a call it a hypothesis or call it a sick hunch about private schools, that private schools aren't actually as good as we think they are. And the reason we think they're so good is because of a huge survivorship bias. Because it's only the most successful students in private school that usually end up sticking around in private schools because of how private schools tend to thin out their students and pupils, especially those that don't conform or don't succeed the way that their standards would want.
Yeah, I don't think it's that really. It's more that private schools are better because they have access to more resources, and also the families sending them to the private schools also have access for more resources, which tends to mean like a better learning environment for the kid.
I don't know. I just have this strange hunch that it's mainly because the private schools can be more choosy with their students, whereas the public schools have to accept anyone and everyone.
It's not that discriminatory because like I almost went to some like the Protestant schools and some of the nicer schools, and it's like they don't scan you to get you in, and they don't really try to weed you out with anything like that. It's more a matter if your family has the money, and oftentimes the education is just. It's not better per se. It's just like a little bit of an improvement, or like it's less conformed to standardized testing for funding.
I see.
Which makes a better learning environment. Which like because it's the mixture of the family having access to resources to send the kid to a private school, meaning they have a good home life, or not good home life, but at least a stable one financially, or as stable as you can get.
Now, one thing. Go ahead and finish your thought.
Oh, and like just that standardized testing thing, where it's like a lot of schools are beholden to their standardized tests on what funding they receive.
Now, one thing that surprised me is how common boarding schools still are. I would have thought that would have been something that. What?
Another rumored plane that President Bashar is riding on has either crashed or has carried out an emergency landing to the west of Homs after taking off earlier from Damascus International Airport. The aircraft ascended to 1,600 feet and disappeared off radar. Assault. He might be dead. Who knows? We'll have to wait.
The last Gnostic regime down. Demiurge has completed his victory.
Yeah, his plane just disappeared.
Oh,
So
I
unless
can
his
hear
father,
my roommate celebrating across the house.
why? Because Assad is dead, or
I think
Possibly.
so. I could go ask him. I don't think we have
Don't
enough time
want
for that
to.
though.
Do it afterwards. Do it after we're done.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
I'll just
All right,
message him.
Yeah, just
let's
message him actually.
wrap it up. Let's wrap this up. It's getting late, and we're definitely way past time. All right, please bow your heads in the name of the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us of our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the power and the glory forever. Amen. Heavenly Father, we pray for the future of Syria. We pray for a peaceful and successful transition of power and a stable government to rise up so that the many displaced people of Syria can return home and rebuild their beloved country. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Thank you for
Amen.
joining us on Monarchist Minute this week. We hope to see you next time, same place. If you're watching this on YouTube, like, comment, and subscribe. If you're watching this on any of our other platforms or streaming services, follow us. Follow us on social media if you want to help out with the cause. Also, send us an email or join us on Discord. Until next time, may God bless you and may God bless the United States of America. Thank you and good night.